What up? What up? What up?
Hey,
Everyone.
hello, internet.
What's
Hello,
going on?
hello,
Hello.
Yeah.
internet.
Hello, Internet. Hello, fans of Carbonite Bound ABS, and we have a special edition show for you guys. So, if you guys are tuning in live, you're getting some bonus coverage from us. We decided to get together here due to overwhelming popularity, I'll say, and what many have said, throughout the community. This may be the best ever Star Wars celebration. So, definitely a lot of things we're going to unpack for you guys. We're going to go over our top 10 moments so far. I know there's another day left, but we're going to go over our top 10 moments so far because literally, I mean, there's so much to unpack, I think, under this one that it's just something we wanted to react to. So we're going to go over that with you guys. So obviously, share your thoughts if you have any. But before we even dive into this, let's let our guy DP let you guys know where to find us at.
Nerdcyclopedia.com, people. Your favorite website. You get all your favorite social media platforms and links on there at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also on TikTok at Nerdcyclopedia. If you are listening to us on podcasts, thank you. Listen to us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, we are there. Watch us on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Hit that subscribe button and also that notification button. So anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. If you're watching us on Facebook as well, Carbonite Bound BS, join the group. We talk about everything Star Wars there. And also make sure that you're leaving us some feedback at nerdcyclopedia.com.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, man, it's been an interesting weekend. I know I told you guys when I woke up. What was it? Friday morning, Saturday morning? It was Saturday, Friday or Saturday. One of them. I'm losing track of
One of
days, but
those. One of those days.
yeah, when it started, I was just like, it was one of those things. I was up early and I like saw Star Wars YouTube, so I clicked on it, and it was literally just starting. I think they were like in the pre-show backstage, and yeah, it started off, and I was like, we've seen it in Anaheim, we've seen it here. I know it's been back and forth with Europe, but that first couple panels, I was like, man, this is really interesting. Like the sets, the some of the interviews they had planned. Obviously, I wasn't privy to see too much into any of the panel sessions they had as far as like off screen, but some of the stuff I was getting, man, I was really, really amazed on the length they went to in London. But yeah, there was a lot. I think that, and I think we can agree, a couple different panels. I mean, this was streaming, right? This wasn't timed until, which is crazy if you were watching it. It was live until Kathleen Kennedy did her panel, and then if you're on YouTube, there was about a 10-second buffer to where it like stopped and it jumped, and they were trying to catch certain things, but yeah, I mean, it was off the cusp. Obviously it's a convention, and as you guys, DP's been to them. A couple guys I thought they were towards later in the day. Maybe Tony Gilroy started letting loose with his language, which is pretty fun. So I don't know if he was being 100% authentic or he was just in typical, convention settings having a little fun on the booze. But it was definitely a great show. The panelists, as we said, was great. But yeah, top 10 moments. I don't really have 10 per se. I mean, we consider all night and talk about 10, but we can definitely we'll start getting into big discussion points. I mean, I know I have a bullet list of things I want to go over as well, but yeah, I mean, and Ken, we'll lead it with you because I know you're the eternal Star Wars optimist. So, I mean, if you want to give us a big talking point or lead us off into this, what do you think about Celebration so far?
So, what I liked was I really like the Ahsoka drop, the trailer. I think that's
Mm,
gonna be a great new storyline for us. I also, I mean, Indiana Jones. Come on, the Dial of Destiny. That also was premiered. There was a second trailer
hmm
there that was dropped.
Yeah.
So, I haven't watched the feed so much. I've gotten in a little bit of the interviews and some of the actors that are there. I mean, you've got Anthony Daniels. He's been at every celebration since the beginning, which I'll have to just put a little part of my little tidbit here is I was there in 1999 at the first Star Wars celebration. Like
Ooh, really? Oh man, that's
it
awesome.
was it was in Denver. It was at the Over the Rockies Air and Space Museum, and it was outside, and it was in the mud because they didn't account for not only the amount of people that were going to go to this, but the weather. So it was a glitch, but it was a great time, and I think they've kept as these celebrations have progressed. So I went to Celebration 1, Celebration 2, and Celebration 3. The 2 and 3 were both in Indianapolis, and they were right ahead of the release of Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. So, to see these things still being popular and still going on, and we still have the fans, and we still have the actors, and we still have the producers and directors who are there dropping stuff and dropping these like little hints and teases to us, even in this new environment, in this new kind of virtual streaming world. Because I mean, in 1999, we didn't know what streaming was. That was something out back. It was like water running through our yard. That was streaming. So now we have this huge, basically workplace to delve into, and we can get all this information, and we don't necessarily have to go to the celebrations now. We can kind of get the information, and that's the great part. And I think they're doing a great job of giving chunks to us, and everything's really legit, and there's no like teasers and spoilers and that wasn't real. So I like the way they're handling things. So as my perspective, as just, I haven't watched the 7-hour, 8-hour feed. I've got a little bit into it, but I've loved the way that the energy of these people. I mean, they are really giving it to the fans and making it worthwhile. And I think that's important. The important thing is that we all enjoy this content, and the way they're giving it to us is super, super special. So, I'm excited for everything for the rest of the year. I mean, I think we're going to have a great Star Wars second, third, and fourth quarter. But like I said, that Indiana Jones trailer really perked my ears, because that's another that's another story franchise that I think is really important to Star Wars, because it is designed by the father. It is part of it. And I really like the new trailer. I like it better than the first one. I like this one because now it's like delving into like, what is this? Is this time travel? Like, what's going on? Are we just having like epic flashbacks, or is there something going on with the story? So I'm excited for June. I think it's June 30th. Yeah. June 29th, something that's going to drop. But Ahsoka, I mean, that by far, sign me up. Take all of my money.
Speaking of which, let's just watch that trailer right quick.
Let's do it.
Get a quick delve and dive into it.
Something's coming. Something dark. I sense it.
This is a new beginning. For some, war. For others, power.
It's been a while. Things have changed. I started hearing whispers about Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire. We have to prepare for the worst. The Jedi fell a long time ago.
That right there. Darth Vader
There aren't many left.
Perhaps it is time to begin again.
Booyah. Booyah.
And I love the way the Lucasfilm logo is red for the first time in 40 years.
It's usually blue or green, that dark green. Yeah.
It's red for the first time. So that told me right away that we've got a very dark story coming. This is not going to be happy. There's going to be a lot of pain.
Yeah. Well, it's been a lot more lightsaber action than we've seen in a while and everything since, like, Obi-Wan and stuff. And I mean, I guess compared to what we've seen in Obi-Wan, I don't know. I think this is like the most live action.
This will be, yeah. It's quoted as being the most like, this is more of the samurai type, getting back to the roots of a lot of Lucas's work. Yeah. And as I said, this project has been Filoni's baby. This is the one he's left, kind of stepped aside from really working on the Mandalorian with. I mean, he's put time and time and time writing this, help directing this. This will be special here. A couple big points though in the trailer, and even things that call outs. So the orange lightsabers, we have a new color of lightsaber, an orange blade.
Huh. Yeah.
It's not red, it's orange, and that orange tint is specific for a reason that's not been released. So that is not a red Sith blade. It's an orangish tone. So we'll delve into what the blade, the kyber crystal, or whatever happened to their crystal. We're going to delve into the color of the blade. I know that was something asked, and Filoni actually did discuss that as well. So people clutching onto the lightsaber hilt color, there's a reason for that. And as we know how methodical he is with detail, it's pretty crazy that he actually answered that live on. I last live in a panel when somebody had asked him about that.
Right. Yeah, that's like super crazy. So I seen the news and everything. Like, woke up like Friday morning and everything, and seeing that the Ahsoka trailer had dropped when you text us, about it and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting over like, oh man, I totally forgot. Well, I knew about the Star Wars celebration, but life happens and everything. All of a sudden, I get this, text in the morning. Immediately, I just wake right up. Just all of a sudden, just wake right up and watch the trailer and everything. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, it was giving me like Avengers vibes.
Right.
Right. Like how, that feeling and everything. Like, okay, this is all I've been waiting for. And then to see like our favorites from like Rebels just pop up, from Chopper to Sabine to Hera, seeing Hera of all things, just seeing them, and of course Ahsoka when she does that spin with the with her twin lightsabers and everything.
Yeah, that's very so in the ride Rise of the Resistance, Kylo Ren does one of those.
Right.
A spin, it cuts to the floor and drops down, and that's not something we've seen in a lot of Star Wars, but we've seen doors being cut apart. But being a circle being cut in the floor, I mean, that's a great way to get to one place to another. And she's very stealthy and ninja like you said. It's very like old school ninja warrior type fighting and battle ethics. And the first word is warrior. So like that's definitely what we're going to see in this. But it looks, I mean, it looked top notch from beginning to end.
Yeah, I mean, Outcast, Rebel, Jedi, I mean, all the things that we know her to be and everything. I mean, it's basically just come down to this. What's amazing to me is that I was reading an article about the panel and everything, and Favreau was like, it wasn't so much of a long-term plan that this whole thing was supposed to happen. They were just saying it was a long-term hope. When Filoni started all this stuff out in in animation, he had no idea that he was planning for live action. But I think in the back of his mind, he sort of like structured, picked actors that sort of like emulated some of the characters that he was going to put on screen. Sort of pick actors and actresses and everything to go about that. So by the time it heads up to animation, if it came to that point, he could actually start casting, the same and everything. Lars Mikkelsen, that made my weekend. That just made my weekend. You know, I mean, we've been talking about on the show and everything. What you know, just doing the fan service and everything, fan casting and all that stuff. How he you know, just did his thing with Thrawn and Rebels and stuff, and to have him be confirmed after he can constantly denying and lying, you know, it was just a beautiful thing to get that announcement.
Yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch would have been a good cast too.
Yeah.
I mean, he has that. You wouldn't even need to make him. You wouldn't even put makeup on him. I mean, he already has that look. But, you know,
He's already tied up in another project, unfortunately.
Yeah, sure. Wouldn't that be nice? Don't we all want to be
Right.
tied up in another project?
Yeah. Same company, just another project. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, you saw Chopper, and I think you have to go live to tie it back to the original story to make the fans believe that this is Star Wars. Not that there's anything wrong with the animation. Rebels, Clone Wars, they have both, Bad Batch, they have both brought me into that. But for me to believe, I got to see these characters like for real. I got to see actors. I mean, even though the drawings are really good. I mean, the animation's good and the inflections are good and the voiceovers are good, but I got to see it live. I got to see real.
Yeah.
To make me believe and let it come into the rest of the Star Wars universe. So I think he planned that, and like he picked the right people to go to plug into all those parts. So
right,
should be great.
I mean, it's just gonna be awesome. Anything there, T Mitch?
Yeah, no, I definitely second with you guys. I mean, it was just one of those things, like you said, the Ahsoka stuff. It was crazy when they had Rosario Dawson come on, and kind of when she got into the Mandalorian. I mean, it was one of those things that kind of like we were talking about with Sebastian Stan playing Luke Skywalker. So the reason she got the part was, and it's crazy, right? That fans were deep faking her online in blogs and forums, right? Like doing her as Ahsoka. Filoni playing in the same, kind of space as we did, seeing it, right? They thought about it. And she literally said that she had, during COVID, received a Skype call. So obviously she still was, when Skype before Teams picked up, got some random call. It was, Star Wars, Filoni and everything. And that's kind of how this whole kicked off as far as, and it's crazy how these actors that we consider, I mean, A-list actors, right? In this space now to where, as we talked about, the streaming space is becoming something that's these guys aren't shying away from, regardless of what you think of, if they don't have work, if they do. But the fact that we're starting to get a lot of these A-listers to do these projects, and ultimately with Star Wars, I mean, I don't think we've had anybody other than a few people in the sequel trilogy talk bad about it, about being part of it and wanting to do it, right? I mean, it's just, it's almost an honor. It's like winning an Oscar, right? If you get the call, like, it's just
everybody in the business would kill to have a walk-on part in something Star Wars. It's just so big and such a big part of entertainment that why would you not want to do it and make that part of your repertoire? Like, I can do drama, I can do romantic comedy, and I can do Star Wars. I mean, it just broadens your palette of what you can do. So, like Jack Black, Lizzo. I mean, Christopher Lloyd. Those are three we saw last week. That what do they have to do with Star Wars? Well, basically nothing. But now they do.
Right.
I remember when Sam Jackson was announced as cast as in a Star Wars, and I'm sitting there like, well, how does he fit in there? How is he going to fit? I don't see it. He was just in Pulp Fiction. How is that going to work? Lo and behold, years later and everything, we can't even see it without, Sam Jackson.
Can't even see without him. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So having big names in Star Wars is not an uncommon thing.
All he wanted was his lightsaber to be purple.
You're right. Yeah, that was crazy that he got a custom request that Lucas granted him.
Yep. And he called, I don't know. The story I heard, like when I was, it was actually revealed at the celebration for that, that he texted George and said, "Hey, you got to put
something
me in
like
this
that.
movie.
Yeah,
you got to put me in this movie." He was so adamant that you just anything. You could kill me in the first 5 minutes, he said. but
Yeah.
put me in the movie. And actually, George had a bigger spot for him because Mace Windu was a brand new character that we had
Right.
no
Yeah.
idea. I mean, we had no idea who these characters were, and you're going to put Sam Jackson in as one of the most powerful Jedi masters,
Right.
and give him a purple lightsaber. I mean, that was like,
Right.
that was crazy.
Yeah, that's I mean, like I said, the big stars and doing these things and everything is not an uncommon thing. I don't think it's a way to be distracted. You got like some fans complaining about, okay, these stars are too big.
Yeah,
They just distract from like the overall story and the elements and stuff. But
they're jealous.
Yeah.
Jealous.
Hey, haters gonna hate, huh, Ken?
Right.
Haters gonna hate.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'll start at the next point. I mean, I thought my biggest thing. I mean, obviously the Acolyte was big, but I thought the biggest thing was that the actual fanatic and chronological time schedule we actually have for Star Wars now. I mean, we've loosely had it, but I think when they put that in roadmap like they do with the Marvel projects and everything, I
Yeah,
thought that was ingenious because we have a definite time period for everything now moving forward, and it fits, right? And it makes sense. Before we had errors, we thought it would fit here, we hit there, but now there's an actual chronological time frame and a name for each error. I thought that
yep.
was like ingenious that they really did that. What were some of your guys' thoughts? Because when they did that and showed the roadmap, so to speak, I was like, okay, this really makes sense, and then it ties in the original trilogy, and you're like, oh, you can really follow it, you know?
Right. Well, think about it. When the original trilogy came out, Return of the Jedi ended. Well, it was great, whatever. But then there was news of, and there wasn't anything from Jedi release to the THX release,
Mm-hmm.
and then the special edition. There weren't new stories. There was, I think, Dark Horse was starting to sprinkle in droids, Ewoks, little stories, that you could sort of, read, but nothing was really tied in. If you were reading the books, there was a lot more content, but
Right.
that didn't really fit. And I think the idea was, if you wanted to write a story, you had to write your story, send it to Lucasfilms.
Right.
They would make sure it fit somewhere. They didn't really know where, but it had to fit. And then they'd let you publish it.
Yeah.
So that's how it was handled. Now, after Phantom Menace came out, now we have to like legitimize the timeline. So the way they've done it now, it's like official. Everyone's locked in. It makes sense. And now all these stories are starting to lock together. So yeah, I second that. I think the new timeline and the control and the the way it's controlled and laid out is perfect. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it looks. I'm looking at the timeline right now. The Dawn of the Jedi, Old Republic, the High Republic, Fall of the Jedi, Reign of the Empire. I mean, having names to these different eras and stuff, and also symbols and stuff. I mean, that's just like sort of just ingenious in itself.
Yeah.
It makes it like you could go to college and take a history class
Right.
on this now. Like it's legit. They've made it a thing. It's as historical as the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Right.
We have to say something real because Hitch ain't here. So so like, okay, it's like the Roman Empire now. It's the rise of the Roman Empire. It's volition and then the fall. So that's what we got.
Right. Our Hitch moment for the evening. Ken has delivered our Hitch moment for the evening.
Now we can go back to like
our historical moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the timeline right here and everything.
Yeah, do you have a graphic you can pull up? Because I mean, it's
that
maybe people have seen it, maybe people haven't.
Yeah, I mean, and also think about it. That's what there's 7 or 8 different images. I mean, those are all T-shirts. Those designs. I mean, like you said, those designs are cool, and it makes you kind of follow the timeline now. I know I like them all the logos. I'm like, man, that's like I want that shirt, I like that logo, I like that one. It's kind of like the pins you get when you're at the when you get your lightsaber, whether it's the power one. I've only made the
Pins.
yeah the I only have the power pin for my red lightsaber. I don't know
You
if you
know
have
how many T-shirts they're going
I
to
have two.
sell
That's what I'm saying.
I have two
with all
pins.
these logos? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
the logos are crazy.
These logos are crazy.
They are.
That is just so dope. I mean, I didn't even really think about it until
Oh,
you
yeah.
just said that. But
Those
I
logos
mean,
are
that's
sick.
just like cha-ching.
Yeah.
As soon as you see somebody with the T-shirt and everything, it, yeah.
Because
You know,
you see the Rebellion logo on the back of cars before, so the Age of Rebellion you've seen.
that First Order logo, I'd redesign that somehow. That doesn't even fit in. Like, we should just take the First Order out, like, completely.
Yeah,
I mean, where's the continuity? Because you can see
not going to spoil that for
how
you,
they
Ken.
evolved.
I will not spoil that for you.
It's already spoiled.
No,
But the
trust
Jedi
me.
Order
I have
one is
some, I have some
awesome.
insight. I have some, as I predicted with the new Jedi Order. When I told you guys 2 years ago about this Daisy Ridley news, everybody thought I was crazy when I was giving you these leaks, right? About like her jobs, her work, and the fact that like, hey, like, bro, this has been in production, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But I mean, I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. They've been trying to pencil this in for 2 years.
The redo.
It had to. I tried to tell you guys after they could not. I mean, everybody killed that. Like there was
I believe that
no
they
way.
would do it. They had to do it, but just
It was.
how are they going to do it?
I was telling you, man. It's going to be this whole new directive. I mean, it's going to be a 10-year jump from since we've last seen her. But yeah, you know,
So,
I don't know. I mean, it'll be a whole new era.
so how do we feel about that and everything? I mean, so did they announce it as like a new trilogy, or she's just gonna be in
There's
like
at least one.
movie? Okay, all
There's
right.
going to be one.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I was getting like on some clear like news as far as that, but I mean, how are we feeling about that? So the complaints I've been seeing, and of course, haters gonna hate, Ken. Haters
right,
gonna hate that she's doing what Luke should have been doing. Well, she's doing getting the movie Luke should have got, years
right.
ago, as far as like, putting the order, from putting a Jedi order together and everything. So I thought that was sort of like, but history, they didn't decide to tell that story. They told that story in other mediums and stuff, to really look at her and sort of shade that. It's just like, you're just complaining just to complain about anything that
Yeah,
goes out there. I'm really happy that she's back, because she
yeah.
is a strong element to a lot of people that were connected to the movies that they felt were good in the sequel trilogy, maybe the
Yeah.
first and second,
Yes,
Yeah.
not so much the third.
She took the character. She played the character like the best she could, and she did a very good job at it. And Daisy Ridley is a humble and very forthright person, and I think that's what the character needs.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's why she was cast, and that's why, I mean, think about some of the, well, let's call them A-listers.
Mhm.
Sir Alec Guinness, I mean, was cast as probably one of the most humble and very charismatic characters. And think about the role he played. Think about the character and the wealth of, information this character had to absorb, and what he had to absorb to play this character that he really knew very little about.
Right.
I mean, he'd never done a space film. He had no idea what this was.
Right.
Daisy Ridley, same thing. I mean, she
Yeah.
really didn't know much about this universe. She knew about Star Wars, but not about like what it was.
Right. And
Yeah.
the lore and everything that that comes along with it, probably what certainly wasn't accustomed to, like, to all the fandom and everything. And I
Right.
think with nowadays you have with like these actors who are associated with this IP, they're really in tune now, or they have to be in tune now with like fandom, where
Right.
it used to be where actors got famous because of their acting abilities and like
Right, yeah.
the movies that they were in and everything. Now you got the characters that are most popular,
Yeah.
that the actors are coming to play, and they have to go to these celebrations and stuff to get that instant feedback and everything on what their job is. So it's sort of like the roles are like reversed a little bit as far as character then actor, where first it was like actor then character or whatever. Actor made the character. Now the character is sort of like making an actor. And Ridley she's done as well as she can, and I'm frankly surprised she's even coming back considering all the backlash that happened with that third movie. So
I knew she was coming back at some extent. I mean, I thought it would be Disney Plus. I didn't think it'd be a movie, but it's just due. Like you said, it's not her fault the movie's bombed. And it was very interesting
they
in the
didn't bomb.
panels.
They made a lot of money, but
Made
the
money
backlash
as far as,
was
But they got a lot of criticism
sold,
too,
yeah.
and it was the first time that Star Wars got criticism.
Yeah,
But I mean,
it's
big way.
but it wasn't, and that's the thing. When we watch these films, I've never faulted the actors. I
Right.
mean, and we may get into it here, or we might discuss it down the line. But I mean, one of the things listening to a lot of the panels, even with Kathleen Kennedy, listening to some of the thoughts, it just really became apparent there were just too many chefs in the kitchen when they did that. Her character as a character is phenomenal. Not only just being a woman, but just the character of Rey. The only backlash that I can understand, and I hope they do clean up, is the Skywalker name. Like adopting that is one thing. It's like okay, hopefully they go down this path, which I've heard that they go down to, and really delve into who she is, not just some junk trader, but really her parents. Kind of like we discussed with Kenobi, who the bloodline. I hope they really delve into that since we're going to do a 10-year time
They
jump.
got to explain that. They
Yeah, they have to
gotta lay
tie. I
that
think they
out.
have to tie into maybe a maiden name from her, and I think that will, as we talk about, like raise up the rating, so to speak, because that's if the one thing we've known about Filoni and these guys, they do a good job of cleaning up, fires, right? He's a fireman. He's put a lot of fires out,
Especially dumpster fires, like
yeah,
that
for sure.
post trilogy was. It was like a dumpster fire.
It was, and it's a shame. And then, as we discussed, it's funny how we have Carl Weathers, Rick, and a bunch of people on the Star Wars team that it seems like as well as we're not just grabbing, as we talk about A-list actors, we're not just grabbing A-list producers, or the big names, the Spielbergs, the Abrams, the Trevorrows. It seems like that. I think they've learned, and they might stick down to this path of people involved in Star Wars are going to direct these movies. One or two outsiders, yeah, but I think that they've learned that they're going to try to follow this path. I mean, they've already have the 3 directors dubbed for the 3 projects, which will be this post-Quill, the original movie, which I'm very stoked for, which will be the first Jedi, which will be crazy.
What's that called?
The first movie is going to be based on the original, the first ever Jedi, and that's for that new timeline. That's where they kind of started the map.
Because you'd have to reset if you're going to reset a timeline. You got to start.
Correct, and that movie is going to be discussing how the Jedi Order started. So that's where that timeline is going to come into play. So very, very, very interested in that. And once again, it just takes us into a timeline that, we've talked about it. Hitch has talked about it. Ken, like everybody's crying for the Old Republic, but it's one of those things. I think with Star Wars, it's treading on a path that with canon, and it's funny, a lot of panelists, they discuss the word canon, right, and rewriting canon, and they understand canon, but that James Mangold film, that's going to be, I'm excited for that, because I mean, we're seeing stuff.
Got to do that right. They got to do it right. I don't know what right is or whatever, because you're going all the way to the beginning. Maybe is this something that they have to consult Lucas on? Like, does he have like ideas, or is this something just there?
I mean, I think he's been involved in every single project that we are seeing. I guarantee you there have been text messages back and forth.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I mean, you're not. He sold the business, but
they can sell him for sure.
So you got to ask, hey, what do you think? What did you think about this? Or did you have any ideas around this? Or how did this all start? Like, where did this all come from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You know?
yeah. Allegedly, so this first Jedi, which is then like the Prime Jedi, right, when the whole order starts, is really going to discuss what balance is and how, as we progress into the Old Republic, the High Republic, and then even Yoda's kind of Jedi Council and what the Jedi become, how far away they dissuaded from what balance in the Force really means. Because the original balance in the Force wasn't just light and dark, but it was a
Mhm.
balance between having both, which
Mhm.
is what we consider a great Jedi.
Yeah.
So they're really going to get into that Jedi back in the day using dark side abilities, what we consider, but really weren't dark side abilities. It was just like it's all about balance. And it seems like as we talk about Yoda's council and even newer things, it was really one sided. So very
And
excited.
that's what was cool about the game, New
Right.
Republic, is that
Yeah.
you could play either way you wanted. You could play
Hmm.
the game, but the
Yeah.
best way to play the game was to use
Right.
both sides. And when you needed to be bad, you were bad.
Hmm.
And when you needed to use those certain skills, those
Yeah.
things that might have been considered, corrupt, or,
Right.
you know, you could and you would succeed and you would get further in the game, and then you could go back and be, good. You could be a nice guy. You could be
Yeah.
diplomacy.
Right.
But that was the cool part. But there was an angle in the game that if you started to go a little bit too far in one direction, the game pushed you into that direction. All
Right.
of a
Yeah.
sudden, you were a dark side
Mhm.
Yeah.
user, and at that point, the game changed completely. That's why you go back and reset your game and start over.
Right.
But so that'll be cool to see how this all evolved and why. Like, why did balance need to be brought back to
Right.
this?
Yeah, I mean it's a hell of a way to like, just go all the way back to like, the beginnings and everything, and how the force just came about, and what all this is, what is it's table setting, what
Hmm.
does all this mean, how does the context of this, like I said, it's a heavy load for James Mangold, and they have to do it right to handle to really set up everything, because it's really a religion, a belief, and just a way of life, that
Right.
light and dark, and the balance of the force, keeps and stuff, and it gets to be a really a heady trip,
Yeah.
I mean, if you really think about it. So I'm very much looking for, I mean, that definitely, like you said, Team Ish, piqued my interest,
Yeah.
as far as like them just going all the way back to the origins and just seeing, how all this just began.
Yeah, I
Mm.
mean, think about it, like, like the first lightsaber we're gonna see, right? Literally, like
The
when
first
you
one.
decided to get this little kyber crystal and how this powers this emitter, right? And then what made you make a hilt and all this stuff. So I mean, I'll say James Mangold's project probably will be the most difficult, and he will have to consult a lot because, like, think about it, like we're saying, this is the origin, right? So, like, all the questions we ask, like, why, how did they get on Jeddah, or what's up with the kyber crystals and how the Jedi Order started? Like, this is literally like you talk about a prequel. Like, this is
This
the
is it.
prequel.
We-
Yeah, like,
you're getting answers. You want
yeah,
answers. You've been asking questions for all these years since
right.
1977.
This
You want
is a
answers.
prequel. So it doesn't get. And then think about this, and we talk about it. This takes off. There's a Disney Plus series that we can tie to this. So I mean, these three movies that they announced are really going to be like three projects, that are huge. But yeah,
Talk
jumping
about
into
the
part
acolyte
point
and
six.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Um.
the accolade something that's like near and dear to me. I've been talking to you guys about that for the longest. I have
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
thought that they needed to expand on the dark side of the force, right? And we're finally getting into part of what the Sith are. I think it's going to be not only just like current, but there's going to be a time jump, right? They're going to show, like, as we talk about ancient Sith, how they became the rule of two, and then in the trailer that I kind of leaked to us in our chat that we still have, so we can view it. But yeah, the acolyte seems to be. It's this part to where the Jedi are thriving, right? And they think that the dark side is
Squash.
dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this is their kind of revival, right? This is their upbringing either, and we'll figure it out, right? If these are fallen Jedi that have turned, or just wielders of the Force that have never became Jedi. I mean, it's a lot of questions, but I think this as well will be another one of those like looks like, I mean, from what we've seen, it's going to be a lot of fighting, a lot of action in this, a lot of pretty decent storytelling, but from a different perspective, right? And it seems like, as you discussed, it's Star Wars has taken down like this dark path a little bit, right? It's
Yeah,
all been positive stories, light stories, but a different tone. The Ahsoka is going to be a different tone because we
yeah,
understand the stakes.
yeah.
This will be a similar thing. This is when the Jedi Order start to lose their way, so to speak, right? They start to become arrogant, and this is where the dark side really becomes a force.
And,
Right.
and, and the thing that's always prevalent is that behind controlling everything
Right,
is the Sith.
right,
Regardless of what story you're looking at, the ultimate control is everything is still being steered by a Sith Lord
right,
through the entire inlet. So this new timeline is going to introduce maybe some new spin, but as far as I see it,
right.
what I understand, Palpatine's been behind pulling the strings on both sides, both the rebellion, the separatists,
Hmm.
and also the alliance. I mean, he's
Yeah,
there the entire time, plugging things in when he needs to make the story his. So he's ultimately in charge of everything that we know so far.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He's the ultimate puppeteer.
right.
Pulling on the strings of everything. On directing stuff. It's amazing that Luke even beat him the
He
first.
even made it. Even that he even made it to the post trilogy.
Oh
The
man.
way things are being threaded to us. So
Yeah,
In a way, he got too arrogant. Same way how the Jedi did. He got too arrogant to the
yes,
point
yeah,
where he ended up exposing his fatal flaw, and Luke ended up exposing it.
right.
Mhm.
He ended up being like the one and everything. So
Did you I think it was yesterday, yeah. So Ian McDermott was on stage, obviously talking about Palpatine, and
He
he
loves it
actually,
too. He loves
oh
it.
yeah, he him and Anthony Daniels, like, literally,
Those two
they
guys.
they like take the mic and they like
Right.
run with
Yep.
it, like.
Yep. Yep.
And he introduced, and it's funny, as we talk about celebrations of Star Wars each year, it seems like they understand their characters as they get older, just like we do, right? And
right.
he had an interesting take on Palpatine, and he said that really, a lot of people don't understand that Palpatine despised Vader. He hated Vader. We
Oh.
always talked about how he loved him and it was his thing, but he wanted nothing to do with Vader. And we discussed, and I always thought that the suit was made to depower Anakin. It wasn't to depower him; it was actually to power him. And the reason that Palpatine despised him is because Palpatine didn't want Vader; he only wanted Anakin Skywalker. So it was almost like that, like, the redheaded stepchild, so to speak, right? Like, it was that, that child that you didn't want, but you had to have, so to speak.
Right.
And when
Because
he
as
discussed that point
Anakin,
in
he
life,
was still
yes,
weak. Anakin was
correct.
weak,
And he
but
was
as Vader,
manipulatable, but he had the power. Vader
right.
was a broken. I mean, it was on fire, right? Um, it was a suffering Anakin, and he knew that he suffered, so there was nothing that he can do to really to power up to a certain level. I mean, because ultimately, and we discussed this, right? I think the whole thing was he wanted Anakin's body, and we just where the cloning comes in, and as we said, it ties this story from then to now, and he really saw Anakin as a perfect vessel.
Mhm.
So, I mean, yeah, Ian McDermott, I mean, him on stage, I think he was on stage today as well. But yeah, when he gets the mic like Anthony Daniels, these guys, like,
He loves it. Loves it.
yeah, yeah,
You just go at it and everything. So yeah, that's awesome. Um, how about this? The Dave Filoni event movie. That was
yeah.
very interesting.
Mhm.
I thought it would have ended up being. Well, we got a preface of they was going to culminate something into like a Disney Plus
A
storyline or
major,
whatever.
yeah. Hmm.
But it didn't dawn on me that they was going to actually do like a feature. So you
Right.
go from animation to live action, TV stuff to a movie. I mean, this has to be like, a fan dream right here.
But it has to be 3 hours as well, right? I mean, come on. It has to be like Avengers Endgame, like 3 hours and 25
Yeah,
minutes. Like,
At least
yeah.
3
And
hours.
and everything that all the character development, really, this is going to be a fan movie.
It
So
is,
if you're looking at it as like, okay, we got to bring like, I think to its detriment if they worry about trying to bring casual audience members in, trying to make it for a general audience.
yeah,
I think it would be just a no. If they're going to spend the budget and do all the character development in these shows, the movie has to be just action, nonstop, action-packed stuff, as far as I'm concerned. And
for sure. And
if
we
they're talking about it being like the New Republic age and everything,
right.
and Thrawn and stuff, I think those two things are just going to be the major things that they're just going to have to talk about throughout that whole movie.
Well, yeah, the big part is here. I mean, and this ties into the sequel trilogy, right? Because once again, this
Yeah.
gives them a blank slate, right? Because we talk about canon, right? And they discuss that in a lot in celebrations. Well, they want to protect canon, they understand canon and the extended universe. We don't know if Thrawn is dead at the end of Rise of Skywalker. We don't know where Ezra Bridger is, right? Because
Right.
at the end of the movie, they talk about Rey channeling all these Jedi, right? We don't know if Ahsoka's alive. We don't know if Thrawn is alive. We don't know where Ezra Bridger is. So this gives them a blank slate to fill in this and see, does Thrawn die? What happens to him? What happens to Ezra Bridger? I mean, this ties directly into the beginning of Rise of Skywalker, or beginning of, The Force Awakens, right? So we know a definite end to this, but the stakes and how this plays out. And as you said, yeah, I just don't. I think that's where they, and I said that's where they went wrong with the sequel trilogy. I thought that my big gripe was they should have made the movies for the Star Wars fans. I thought they tried to be too inclusive of a new audience and do the fan service to try to draw in the new audience. If they stick to, and which Filoni knows, if they stick to their guns on this one and just hit those bullet points, which we all know they should, with these characters. I mean, yeah, I just hope that he can get it done because the one thing I said with Endgame DP, and I know you love it, but I just thought it could have been done a two-parter. That's my gripe. It was a good beginning, and then it just like kind of like rushed at the end because it was 3 hours. I just thought if they would have did like two, maybe two, and just broke it up. I just don't want this to be like one of those type of movies to where it's going to be like a Kill a Mockingjay or a Hunger Games, like a part one and a part two. I don't know if that's in the budget to do two, but I just don't, I want them to be able to pay it off in three.
Yeah, and dropping a vintage character in does not sign the check for you.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that was something that I think they, by dropping Han Solo and Chewbacca in, they thought, oh, well, that's okay. The fans will say, yeah, that's good. Han Solo is in it. But no, you have to connect, and you have to make sure you sign properly on the line to make sure it all fits.
I mean, it's Dave Filoni. It's a requisite that he's going to put something in there. I mean, everything he does is sort of like a callback and make sure. The one thing that Dave Filoni does best is make sure that you still have that feeling of Star Wars. I think you being Ken, you being such a Star Wars historian and everything, when you started watching these, animated stuff, the shows and everything, you expressed the elements of the movies of that feeling of Star Wars throughout like Filoni's animated stuff.
Yeah.
This will be the same thing. So if you want to say you got somebody in trusted hands and this in this work and everything. I mean, in Filoni, I trust. This may be his first live action feature film, which is a daunting thing, for a first time director, but he's had so much time and he's been a protege for so long. This has to be almost like old hat.
Yeah, he's got it covered. There's no way this is going to fail as long as he keeps the same. If you've got a system, you've got the recipe that works.
Yeah,
you do whatever you want with it.
Yeah,
and I think this will be a great. This will be a great element and a new thing. I mean, when's the release of this? What's the timeline on this?
There's no date yet. I mean,
It's just a
so
projected.
yeah, so the calendar I have, and we've kind of discussed it. They're only up to this year. The first movie will be. I mean, when they discussed it, they want to have these three movies wrapped up by 2026. So the next 3 years, they're writing the Ray. So the Ray movie will come first. The prequel will come. The Ray movie will come first. I believe the this movie will come second. But this is all hinging on, as would end up as always, the Mandalorian, right? So they don't want to release this movie. This movie will probably come last because depending on how popular the Mandalorian and this whole Ahsoka verse is, because one thing you heard from Celebrations, Rosario Dawson wants a season two.
Yeah,
It's not
already.
even out.
Yeah,
She's already claiming like, "Oh, do
yeah.
you guys love it? Because I'd like to do this again." So, if we get a second season of Ahsoka, that's going to put us all the way. Because what we have, Mando season 4, I'm guessing fall 24, if we're lucky. So that will put Ahsoka spring, the summer, fall 25. So yeah, that would put us also
Well,
that movie
they
in
keep it
25.
all connected. They keep
They
everything
will, yeah.
connecting. And
So I think the Filoni movie will come at the end of the three. So it'll be the Ray movie, the prequel, obviously the Mangold's film, and then the Filoni movie. But man, this is like DPU being a writer. This is a dream, right? I mean, this, and
Yeah.
not only that he's being a Star Wars fan, but this really opens him up to doing, the projects, to create. And he may not, but maybe he wants his own studio, like Abrams did with Bad Robot, right?
Yeah.
This is his chance to
Yeah.
really
To make.
cement his legacy
Yeah.
in film.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
One of the things that I'm thinking, I'm wishing that they didn't side, I wish they did that Gina Carano project or whatever,
right,
and they didn't have to do it with her. But what I was hearing was that some of the elements that we ended up getting in political elements in the Mandalorian was
yeah,
supposed to be in that show.
right,
And they had to drop it into the Mandalorian to still keep with Dave's, Dave's storytelling and everything, which made the Mandalorian sort of awkward and people questioning, okay, what is this stuff? I'm interested, but it's not the Mandalorian and everything.
The you're talking about the Navarro stuff was all this whole that the Navarro episode was not supposed to be in the Mandalorian. The Grief Cargo was not really supposed to be in the Mandalorian. He was supposed to be in the Gino Carano stuff, and
it's
it's
a shame that that project got sidetracked. But if they can, I mean, I trusted them clean it all up and everything. I don't know how much the skeleton crew is going to connect to all this, but I'm assuming it's still like part of the whole thing and everything, like the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and the skeleton crew, because he seems like he really wants to tell the story of the New Republic and have it connect to the sequel trilogy somehow. To finish bridging that gap and everything.
Yeah. I guess one of the final points we can talk about is obviously with us being a show based on and really getting popular over the Mandalorian, right? The Mandalorian panel, Katie Sackhoff on there, Emily Swallow, we have the Forger, the Armorer, and it's just a lot, that they, and I don't know if she wanted to do it, but the Katie Sackhoff, as I said, she let the cat out of the bag. She said, when they had Carl Weathers, he was doing his interview on there with her, and she said that, look, like, it's crazy that we're on episode 6. We have 2 episodes left. And her words verbatim were, I know how much we shot, and we have a lot to cover in 2 episodes. So
I expect 60-minute episodes out of each of these last 2 episodes.
60 minutes.
60 minutes per.
I was privy to been given the final 2 episodes, so I know what's going to happen. So yeah, I was given privy information to what happens in the next episode, in the final episode, and
no spoilers here, guys.
No spoilers here.
No
spoilers here. But I'm excited, and they do pay off.
Here we go.
We get payoff. So it's not going to be one of those like, oh man, like nah.
And if you guys are new to this channel and everything, when T Mitch expresses his enthusiasm on something. He lets us know,
Yeah.
and when
I
it's
do
not
agree.
there, he lets us know.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And not only on Carbonite Bounty
Please.
BS, but nerd comic psycho flick show. Yeah, if I'm not happy, it's one of those things. I'll let you guys know
Yeah.
for sure.
It's the Mandalorian season has been great to me. To
Mhm.
me, it hasn't been as great to others because people want their Din and Grogu stuff. The what we initially got with the first two
Right,
seasons.
but it has to evolve past that, right?
It has to,
Yeah, it has to.
but people want what they want, and
Right.
I think this season is sort of like divided the fandom where we or I'm gonna speak for myself. I want them to evolve past, I think the Din and Grogu storyline has run its course.
I'm on par with you. Yeah.
They need to move past that. I'm excited to where they're going with Mandalore and these extended bridge, stories and everything with bo-katan and all that stuff, passing the buck or whatever. But you still have those who like the simple episodic thing. And I can't really speak to those. So, if you want to go into the comments and, let us know what you think. Things have to evolve, things have to change, and they have to really go into what the storyteller wants to tell. We already were prefaced that this was going to lead into like something bigger. It's bigger as far as like a bigger event, and what we were saying in number 8, as far as like the whole Dave Filoni event movie and everything.
Right.
Mandalorian can't stay what it was. It has to
Right.
it has to grow. It has to evolve and everything. So I'm all for it.
No, I mean, yeah. DP, you definitely hit the nail on the head, though. If you think about it, as much as anybody wants to talk shit on it, right? Fast and the Furious has lasted 10 movies, and it's the same way, right? We can't just hear about Dom, or we can't just hear about Toretto. I mean, they've taken chances to where they've had to bring
And
other characters to keep the story going.
and
You just
they keep the vibe though.
they do,
The
yeah,
vibe is
right.
the
As long
same.
as they have that you're saying that same
And
base,
every franchise has a clunker. So Fast and the Furious, it was Tokyo Drift.
Yeah,
yeah.
that was his.
Okay.
Yeah,
Still,
lowest point.
for me as a fan of that franchise, I mean, don't get me. I mean, I love tuners and I love
Oh yeah.
street racing and
Yeah.
I love family, and that was the vibe, right?
Right.
Tokyo Drift kind of went sideways a little bit.
Right.
Halloween, Season of the Witch, it was the third film in the franchise. It really went sideways, but still, it's kind of good film by itself. So every franchise has a dud, and
Right.
it took me a while to swallow the pill, but Star Wars had a dud, and they're making really good attempts now to bring it back because they realize what the problem was.
Yeah, I mean, and you're spot on what you say. I mean, it's one of those things. As long as they have that overarching story, and we discussed it, and we've kind of put our spin on it. The show's called The Mandalorian. It's not Din Djarin, right? There are tons of
Or
there
Grogu.
are tons
Or
of
Grogu, right? They didn't call it the Force of Grogu
and
or whatever.
and
But
it's one of those things. I get it, right? But it's kind of like, and we discussed it with Bad Batch, like. The element of having a child like Grogu, it ties into me. It doesn't directly affect me necessarily, or resonate with me because it's for a younger audience, right? Like I understand like he's learning the Force and this and that, but it's just one of those things that I just can't see him train, like especially like after he trained with Luke, and then it's just like these kind of like they like treat him like a baby almost, and that's where I like
You're bringing up such a great point there,
it
T-Man.
loses me there.
He really, I mean, if you really think about the way they're going with this season, he really should have stayed with Luke.
Right.
yeah, for a couple of years.
He should have stayed with Luke instead of, making that decision to go with, Din and all that stuff. But Disney marketing, I understand. You got like a cash cow right there.
Oh yeah.
To have that storyline end with Luke taking him in at the end of season 2, it was just like, okay, we can't do that. We got to bring him back in Boba,
Right.
and so we could be there for the start of season 3. But the way they structured this, and they don't have a lot for them to do, they should have stayed with Luke. And then, after they did whatever they did with what they're doing with Mandalore, we go back to them,
Correct.
see what they're doing. You know,
Because I mean, it's like the quest. Like he didn't need. This is a story he didn't need to be involved in, right? And
right,
that's why I think when you talk about Mandalore and Mandalorians, it's like one of those things that like you're saying. I feel like he's forced in this season. You
right,
know what I mean? Like we
right,
don't need him. There are so many more stories. We have a Vizsla here, which
But,
is
but,
you
but
talk about
people,
Bo-Katan being royalty of
people
Vizsla.
tune in to see what Grogu is going to do.
But do we? That's the thing, though.
Well,
And that's where
do
Star
we?
Wars. That's where we talk about, right? That
yeah.
they
That's
keep
that's
trying
where the
to
fandom sort of divides a little
they
bit. You
keep
know.
trying to like draw in this new fan.
Hmm.
That are they really that in tuned?
Yeah, I mean, Ken said, it is what it is and everything. They could have split it into two shows if they were going to do it like that,
Right.
but they chose this route. So I guess the final point we could say is that the biggest thing out of all this is that we're getting more and more and more Star Wars content.
Yeah.
You know,
And
Yeah.
it's projected for the next decade.
Oh yeah. They've only gave us 3 to 4 years worth of, and this I would say we've really only got 2 years of definite like solid
Yeah.
projects. They're 3 to 4 years down. I
Yeah.
mean, what May the 4th coming out. Um, they're gonna obviously release more.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
guess what? When this all started back in 1977, they thought that was it. Done. Never,
Yeah.
never would we hear of Star Wars again, ever. And here we are, 2023, and we're talking about content going out to 2026.
Right.
They got to keep the train and machine moving there. I'm all for it.
That's
Y'all
huge.
got me on as like a Star Wars fan. I wasn't even paying attention, all like that and everything before Clone Wars. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Like, I admire this this expansive universe that George Lucas has created. And I see the flaws. I mean, of course, it's not perfect and everything, but I see the overall vibe and the heart that he puts in, that he put into it, that people can't help but just carry on into like their stories that they want to tell. Because each of the Star Wars stories you got from, like, we haven't even gotten to, like, the Jedi Survivor video games and everything, to, like, the comic stuff that they're going to announce tomorrow with, like, Marvel and all that stuff. There's still like a bunch of content that we're not even talking about. So eliminated number 10. I mean, it is what it is, but we're getting more and more and more of this stuff where everyone could just enjoy it. Just keep the Star Wars faucet flowing.
At least it's all making sense.
Yeah,
like everything we're
yeah.
seeing now is like making sense within the storyline. We're all in agreement of how things are supposed to go. It's not a juggernaut of different things that are being told. Everything is now making sense. So as a vintage super fan, from way back when, I'm enjoying this, and Wednesday can't come any sooner for me.
Yes. Give me more. Inject it into my veins. Disney,
Right.
you have my money. You're Disney Plus.
I'm on auto pay. It doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They just take it out now.
That's what they do.
Play. But yeah, guys, I definitely appreciate everybody coming on for this. Like we said, it's kind of a special edition. And we really didn't discuss today's panel as much, obviously, with it being some people celebrating a holiday and others just having a wonderful Sunday. They had a panel today, and there was content, and we'll get a little bit more tomorrow. But yeah, there's so much. So we'll delve into, we'll tie back in with our Mando review. We'll kind of finalize our thoughts on the end of celebration, and definitely react to this, last final 2 episodes of Mandalorian here again Wednesday. So yeah, guys, I definitely appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're watching this on playback, as always, right? The CP says smash a like, leave us feedback on our Facebook group. But I guess I'll give you guys a little spoiler preview for Wednesday, all right? And I'll just leave you with this. Ken, wear your Vizsla helmet. Wednesday.
Teaser.
Teaser when
Teaser.
Ken wear your Vizsla helmet Wednesday.
I'll wear it. I'll do the whole podcast with it.
It'll be so yeah. That's my teaser for Wednesday. But yeah, guys, I appreciate it. And until the next 72 hours, this is the way.
This is the way.